All right. Welcome. Thanks everyone for joining here. Um, Again, if you just want to throw any comments, questions in the comment section, be happy to take care of them. We're here discussing the article on FIDF that was published today by YNET. Again, I just want to first say that it's not, it's a deeply sad thing, the way that FIDF handled itself in the past few years, specifically after October 7th. It's in no way good for the soldiers of the IDF or people who actually care about where their donations go and end up. So this is not said in a way that is looking to replace an institution like FIDF. It's simply that they should do their job and do it well, and not with relying on either false advertising or other means for going about raising money. So that's the heart of it. That's what's going on, and that's the big issue. So the issue is simply the lack of accountability and clarity in terms of what exactly FIDF is doing. We know what they claim they're doing. We know what their advertising is, but the question is, what are they actually doing, and what are they actually spending the money where it should be spent? Is it actually going to critical needs? And that's a serious question. Give me 1 sec. I'm just going to put something on the group, just a reminder. And then we'll get going. Okay, so from YNET, it says, like a burst sewer clog, the crisis that is undermining the organization of huge donations to the IDF. Half of the staff wants to leave, but we kept quiet for the soldiers. Now it's reached the end. An internal report and employee testimonies undermine trust in an organization that raises hundreds of millions for IDF soldiers and is supported by the Jewish American elite. Allegations of extreme centralization, conflicts of interest, a sense of fear, and a disconnect between branches. What is going on with the FIDF? Chairman Levovitz and the organization refused to comment. Following a request from YNET, an emergency email was sent calling for his resignation. In one of the glittering event halls in the heart of Manhattan, in front of hundreds of donors dressed neatly in tuxedos and evening gowns, Noah Argamani took the stage and tearfully recounted her time in Hamas captivity and her return to Israel. Now, at the time, I actually wrote and asked if Noah Argamani was being compensated. To the best of my knowledge, as of right now, July 2nd, 2025, the answer to that was no. So you have people that are obviously being paid from the organization that work at the organization, and people that are, that make a salary. The food is being paid for. If there's a singer, the singer is being paid. But I'm not confident that Noah Argamani was paid at that event. Also consider that you have families of bereaved soldiers. Of soldiers who passed away, so bereaved families. My understanding is they're not compensated either. Obviously, their travel's paid for, or perhaps it's not obvious. But to me, there seems to be a disconnect in terms of putting people on stage to raise money and actually compensating them for their time fairly. Of course, the argument that it's for a good cause doesn't really hold water, because every single person who's fundraising would be fundraising for a good cause. So how come they're not doing it for free? Something like that it's a fair question. Also, is what is being told to Noah and others who have spoken in terms of why they need to speak, or why is the organization important? Earlier at the luxurious faina in Miami Beach, the super boxer Mike Tyson took the stage smiling alongside lone soldiers and battle-scarred soldiers. At the end of that evening, it was announced that $10 million had been raised for the official donation organization for IDF soldiers abroad. That's what happens when you're led to emotion. Your heart opens and your wallet follows, said one of those present. Later, Tyson, who converted to Islam, claimed that he did not know that this was an event raising money for the IDF and clarified he didn't donate a dime himself. But with or without him, since October 7th, events of this kind have become routine. Also mentioned that Brett Ratner was there. It was one of the first events I'd ever seen Brett since the Me Too movement. A lot of allegations, just worthy of note. The organization behind them, Friends of the IDF, has raised more than $285 million since the start of the war in Gaza, more than twice its usual annual donations. Of course, at the beginning, they launched an emergency campaign. They say, never again is now. You have to contribute to the front lines. It basically made it seem like if you did not help FIDF, help IDF soldiers, that Israel might fall, that there is an urgent need for your urgent donations, and every single cent that you're contributing is going to the most critical needs. Of course, that's not true, but that's what they said from a marketing perspective. It's something that I've been very open about criticizing this way of advertising. Again, saying that you're raising money for bereaved families or saying that you're raising money for a PTSD center is very admirable, and it should be done in a proper way. But that's not the same thing as showing bombs going off and grenades being thrown and all sorts of other things. To me, it reeks of dishonest marketing when you are invoking frontline war combat footage and saying that you need help in that moment. And now, again, there's no issue if FIDF says it's outside of their charter. I would just ask that they not comment or spread information on things that they truly don't know. So last week, Rabbi Stephen Weil, the CEO of FIDF, actually went on a podcast with Rabbi Elliot Cosgrove and said a number of things. And that's not the purpose of this live stream, but he said a number of things. Rabbi Weil said a number of things that were simply untrue. And the greater question is, why are they commenting on this? He's saying that there's not a shortage of helmets. There was, still is to some extent. He said there is no shortage of drones or other issues, and said that something like 300 soldiers had been injured by donated drones. Not true. Drones are saving lives. So on and on and on. I don't really want to get into a discussion with Rabbi Weil about yes or no. The question is, if you're not going to do that in your organization, then why are you commenting on it? Why can't FIDF just own the lane of saying we're dealing with strictly humanitarian things and we don't have an opinion on tactical equipment or other things that might be under the auspices of the Ministry of Defense? So that's it. That's the question. So FIDF is the only organization outside of Israel officially recognized by the IDF to raise funds for its soldiers. Again, there's a complicated factor there. It's not entirely true. The organization has about 120,000 members, most of them from Jewish communities in the United States, with board members such as Chaim Saban and the Prime Minister's confidant, Neely Falik. The organization is considered one of the richest and most influential in the American scene. Its glittering fundraising events are attended by tycoons alongside community leaders and Hollywood stars Sylvester Stallone, Barbra Streisand, Gerard Butler, Andy Garcia, Fran Drescher, Ashton Kutcher, Ricky Martin, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all of whom have taken part over the years in the festive galas that have sometimes raised as much as $60 million in a single night. Some performed, some donated, and some just posed for pictures with soldiers. I'll just add Roe comments. We need more tactical equipment. FIDF doesn't get the thing we need. It's all just politics. That's something that we've heard from a number of soldiers. Thank you for speaking up, Roe. That's a pretty regular comment. Again, FIDF says it's outside of their mandate. It's a question as to why they comment on it, though. So why would they discourage people from helping people directly if it's outside their mandate? That, to me, is probably the most confusing bit about their position. Continuing with YNET, but recently a serious crisis of trust has arisen among the organization's employees, and YNET has obtained an internal investigation report submitted to the FIDF board of directors, along with 3 testimonies from senior officials within the organization. So people are speaking. The findings, which span 18 pages after a 3-month investigation, contain evidence of improper conduct, centralization, conflict of interest, and blurring of boundaries on the part of its senior officials. Now the organization fears, quote unquote, catastrophic damage. While it is unclear whether Israel is aware of the situation, which according to the description is distancing the organization from its mission. Daniel Shaw comments, in my reserve service, I've only seen FIDF give out food. Look, on Operation Rising Lion, Israel's strikes in Iran, they actually were raising emergency funds saying they're needed for the front lines. And then according to an internal donor email, a board email that Morey Levovitz sent, they were saying that they gave out special sweet packages. So you're fundraising saying that you need urgent frontline assistance, and some segment of that is going towards sweet packages. It's pretty crazy. So this says there's a lot going on with Morey Levovitz. According to the report, Levovitz actually acted as acting CEO, even though he was not formally appointed to the position and without explicit approval from the board of directors, contrary to the committee's interpretation of the organization's bylaws. Committee members note that they are not aware of any discussion or vote by the board of directors that authorized him to the position. Although Stephen Weil officially holds the title of CEO, the committee determines Levovitz is the one who makes the key decision and actually manages the organization. So that would be a little bit weird, but apparently that's what's going on. One of the most controversial decisions is the contract with the Israeli travel company Ortra, and only with it for the organization's expeditions or travels. According to the report, this is a company whose owner is a longtime personal friend of Morey Levovitz, and the move was carried out without a tender as is customary in the organization. So the allegation from YNET is essentially that the contract was handed to Morey Levovitz's friends, and he just got the contract without actually going through the proper process. And of course, there's going to be money that perhaps there's excess expenditures that could be saved. And they're raising money. FIDF is raising money, saying they're getting for the most essential needs, helping widows, orphans, injured soldiers. They claim to be helping on all of these things. And they're not issuing a tender to try to get the best pricing for their extensive travel. It was also alleged that Levovitz received expense reimbursements from the organization totaling approximately $53,000 for flights, hotels, and participation in events, which, in the opinion of committee members, violate the organization's bylaws. Again, he's not an employee of FIDF. He's the chairman of the board. Okay, there's 5 stars. They're staying at Hilton, Tel Aviv, Waldorf, Astoria. Another thing is the report also describes an unusual crisis between the management and the branch in San Francisco, one of FIDF's main recruitment centers. And after the dismissal of the local manager, it was noted that the regional management tried to contact the leadership via a group email, but this move was perceived as impersonal and increased a sense of alienation on the part of the members. The leadership felt it encountered ignorance that left them without support or a response. It's as if we're not important to the national management. I actually want to read an email that I was able to obtain from someone who served on the board. And this is pretty indicative of the feeling of people, of a lot of people that are involved. This is from Ricky Alone, who's a former board member of FIDF San Francisco Bay Area. Hi, Jenna. You must be kidding or totally stupid. You fire both our outstanding and accomplished executive director, Amarel Green, and her dedicated associate, Leanne Zatlavi. You and the FIDF national leadership, the unfit Stephen Weil, and self-appointed CEO Morey Levovitz do not consult with our local board and refuse to give us the reason for this sudden, senseless, and irresponsible act. Now you pretend to be clueless and ask for our continuous support as if we're not literally dismissed by the gangster-like, quote-unquote, leaders who took control of what used to be a great organization, FIDF. Let me update you with news. Stephen Weil and your quote-unquote boss, Morey Levovitz, are under investigation by a special committee for multiple reasons. We were among many who provided information to this committee and are totally convinced that the outcome, which we expect to be very soon, will be their dismissal, followed probably by your dismissal, among others. Once they and you are gone and a new responsible and capable leadership is in place, we will be happy to support the FIDF once again. At that time, we count on many of the 21 Israeli directors fired by Morey and his team to return to the FIDF. Until then, we continue to support the soldiers of the IDF through several other organizations, honest and efficient ones. Please remove my name from your distribution list, and I urge you to consider also removing yourself from this job, which you do not deserve. Wow. And I just received a note from someone, a soldier in Gaza right now. And this soldier reads as follows. I've been saying this for a long time. When I first approached friends of the IDF, FIDF, for equipment for my combat medical extraction unit at the beginning of the current war, they rudely told me to F off. I ended up raising $1 million of desperately equipment myself for our unit. I approached them a second time a year into the war. I'm still serving 21 months later, and I received the same extremely rude response. I wondered exactly what they were doing with the vast sums they are raising, besides paying huge salaries to the upper echelons of the organization. This article explains one of the biggest scams of modern Jewish philanthropy. One thing I can tell you, it most certainly is not getting to the soldiers who need it most. Ouch. Again, this is something that soldiers are pretty upset about. It's fair to say. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to now read some of the comments here. Amongst other things, it's just pretty wild. I was injured in Gaza. As a wounded soldier, I want to say that they used us, our photos and videos, and even invited us to Hasbara. In fact, they used us to raise funds without permission, and we didn't see any help, not even a single dollar. Another person says you forgot something important. How much in percentage of each donation takes an administrative fee? Another comment, incredibly accurate. As a former employee who also experienced the consequences of this management change firsthand, I was in the reserves at the beginning of the war, and instead of friends of the IDF organization lending a shoulder, they took all the responsibility I had and transferred it centrally to the U.S. I came back from the reserves to a warm chair, and I was explicitly told that my options were to resign or be patient. I used to work for this organization. Everything here is correct. Hold on one second here. Yeah, again, this is pretty it's pretty crazy. Long story short, there's a lot that's going to be unpacked here. And it's just, and I also just want to mention here, Garry Sobol. So there was 4 people who were on this internal review. They were on the committee, and essentially Garry Sobol accuses the leadership of FIDF of actually covering up the results of this finding of the committee, and it says any attempt to erase the committee's work and silence its findings does not contradict the report. It confirms it, he wrote, concluding, quote, if we are proud to support the most moral army in the world, we must meet the same moral standards of integrity that it represents, end quote. Look, from the beginning of the war, nothing really made sense. They were claiming that they were dealing with the most important issues. Then they switched and said they're dealing with the most humanitarian issues. But yet still, Nadav Padan, Stephen Weil, and others on their live streams or podcasts or whatever you want to call them, videos on their channel, were spreading actual misinformation when it came to equipment, which is just weird, because if you truly support the soldiers, why would you gaslight them and claim that their authentic needs from the reserves or even from the regular army, why would you gaslight them and say that their needs are not real? It does not make any sense. You could just say that that's not what you deal with. If someone went to UJA and said, listen, or the Federation, and said, I think we need to give $5 million to relief efforts in a random country in Africa, UJA or the Federation could say that's outside of the realm of what we do, and that's that. You don't have to comment on whether or not it's a good use of money. So why did FIDF have to comment on whether or not the needs of soldiers are real or not? Just say that's not what you deal with. But for whatever reason, they came out and took it to the next step, and it's really shameful. And again, this is not self-interest. This is not trying to encourage anyone to donate to any other organization. I'm just saying that people that are raising this much money, people that are working in partnership with the state of Israel, people that are working with the IDF should just be honest with what they're doing. It's as simple as that. Just be honest with what you're doing. I can't tell you how many soldiers have reached out saying that they had authentic needs and requests they sent to FIDF and they were just ignored. And there's board members who've also said this as well. So I've posted these on my Substack. You can go on my Substack, Daniel Mael. If you search FIDF or any of these things, I've written extensively about these issues. It's not new. And the question is, why is there all this attempt to be, I would argue, misleading? It just does not make sense. I want to, if I can pull this here, working on the fly, trying to see how, okay, hold on. I mean, look, so if we go to here, share that, watch this video. Your donation powers every moment. Like, what does that mean? Your donation powers every moment. So is that the look of a advertisement that seems to be dealing with candy or sweet packages or something like that? No, it says a heartbeat. You have a defibrillator. Okay. Oh, front lines. So what are we really talking about here? So your donation powers the front lines? Is that what FIDF is claiming? Is that what they're claiming? Because they've explicitly said they can't help with gear. They can't help with other things there. So what is up with this obsession with trying to put themselves on the front lines? It's a little bit weird. And it's not unfair to ask why this keeps happening. So, we go to, this is on my Substack, and this is from Morey Levovitz. Dear board member, as Israel continues to defend itself on multiple fronts, Operation Rising Lion has become one of the most intense military campaigns in the country's modern history. The scope of the conflict has placed extraordinary demands on the IDF, and yet, in the face of these challenges, our soldiers continue to display unmatched strength, courage, and resolve. Thanks to you, FIDF has been able to respond in real time, delivering critical supplies and offering comfort to soldiers operating under extreme pressure. Many of these brave men and women serve in FIDF adopted units, as outlined below, making our connection to their well-being not only strategic but deeply personal. From wartime aid to long-time recovery and resilience, your partnership ensures we can meet urgent needs today while investing in a stronger tomorrow. We remain grateful for your dedication and proud to stand together in this mission. Then at the end of the email, he says, within 48 hours of the launch of Operation Rising Lion, FIDF mobilized to assemble and distribute thousands of care packages filled with essential personal supplies, including hygiene items, clothing, and basic necessities for soldiers on the front lines. More recently, our team delivered special sweet packages filled with snacks and treats to show our continued support during this difficult time. I'm sorry. It's absolutely shameful. It's absolutely shameful to invoke planes flying over the skies, telling donors that their donation powers every moment, and then turn around and privately brag that you're giving sweet packages. How is there a single dollar that's spent on a sweet package when you have soldiers missing limbs, widows that have a very difficult time, orphans, thousands of orphans? How is that a good allocation of money? What does that say about the IDF or the soldiers if FIDF is claiming that they can't respond to an emergency without a pack of Mentos in their pocket? It's truly reprehensible, and I'm of the belief this is going to be the first of many articles to come, because there's a lot more here when it comes to FIDF and its conduct, both during this war and before, it turns out. And ultimately, the donors deserve to be treated with respect and to have their money go directly where it's most needed. And most importantly, the soldiers of Israel proudly serving in the IDF deserve the best. So we will see what happens here. Thanks for joining the live stream. Thanks for your comments. And God willing, there'll be better news going forward.